front hall of my new house was crowded with junk. Soggy cardboard boxes, an old bamboo cage, an armless coat rack, a chest of drawers with no drawers, and a heap of worn-out but elegant shoes, the discards of a fashionable woman. I didn't know who had lived there before. I bought the house from a bank, but whoever they were, they'd moved away long ago, because the place was derelict and needed repairs both obvious and as yet undiscovered. My house was in an area we called sewage when I was a kid, but was properly known as Seward, the kind of neighborhood where people sat on their stoops in the summertime and left their Christmas lights up all year long. In affluent Llewellyn Gardens, where I grew up, the houses had patios and people took down their lights. So the stoop-sitting and unseasonable lights were proof enough that Seward was a lowly place. And the taunt, "Where are you from, sewage?" was a common, if mild, insult of my youth. Later, when my friends and I were old enough to drive, we would go to Seward to buy beer at a package store where the guy at the register didn't ask for ID. "You're going to sewage?" was a hopeful question then, for anyone who had the use of a car. The package store was gone by the time I bought my house, and Seward was becoming a vaguely hip area. Students from the Art Institute rented rooms there during the school year, and people from other neighborhoods came to eat at a local restaurant called the High-Low that served oysters and crabs. "Gentrifier," my neighbor accused when I went over to say hello, though as far as I knew, I was the only yupster, as he put it, to buy into the neighborhood. It was summer, and he was bare-chested, a massive barrel of a man, with a fringe of hair around his head like a medieval tonsured monk. It was October before I saw him put on a shirt, and he wore knee-length, multi-pocketed shorts right up until Thanksgiving dinner. His wife had a job at the spice factory doing something clerical. He was on temporary disability after dropping a box on his foot while delivering packages for UPS. He told me to call him Munn and introduced his wife as Gina. I said my name was Harry, even though I had always been called Harold. Our houses were attached to each other. I thought it was important that we get along. "You won't be the only one for long," he said. "More will follow, and next thing you know, there'll be a Starbucks on the corner. Good Christ." He settled heavily into a rusty metal lawn chair that he'd set up on the sidewalk in front of his house. "And what that means for me is higher real estate taxes." He made me tell him what I paid for my house and was impressed by how little it cost. "But it's a piece of shit," he said, "practically falling down. Those are asbestos shingles, you know. Gotta get rid of them safely, and it'll cost you a pantload to do it." I didn't think that was true. I hoped it wasn't. The shingles looked like they were made of tar, with bits of mica embedded in them that winked in the afternoon sun. My idea was to eventually replace them with white clapboard siding, fresh and clean, and to put green shutters on the front windows. I had a lot of ideas. I thought about the house all the time. I even dreamt about it. I dreamt it had a backyard, which it did not, and that the parlor had become a ballroom. The ballroom dream was particularly vivid because of the shock of discovery. "I didn't ask for a ballroom," I screamed at somebody, a stranger, who was standing in the ballroom with me. I often saw strangers in my dreams in those days. My psychiatrist said it was because of stress. I was supposed to avoid stress, as if it were a food that would kill me. But buying a house wasn't even on the Holmes and Ray scale of the top 10 most stressful life events. My psychiatrist had never heard of the Holmes and Ray scale. I'd been seeing him since I was 19, almost 5 years, and he was old, over 70. "Retirement is number 10 on the Holmes and Ray scale," I said. "You should get a job before you think about retiring," he said. He thought he was being funny. useless crap all over the house, not just in the front hall. Someone who'd lived there had a fondness for broken lamps, because there were maybe 20 of them in the basement, and I suppose the same person had collected the dozens of table fans and toasters and various other gadgets, all broken too, that I found in a bedroom upstairs. There were dusty cans of food and stacks of piss-yellow newspapers, and perfumes so ancient they had condensed to dark smears in their bottles. I found a laundry bag full of enough pink sponge hair curlers to set the hair of every woman on the block. On the floor of a closet off the kitchen lay 2 small pelts of brown and white fur, with shriveled feet attached to them. I picked one up between my finger and thumb and took it over to Munn's. He was sitting in his lawn chair in the narrow shade of his house. "Oh yeah, that guy," he said when he saw the pelt. "I'd forgotten about him. He died, and then his wife. When was that? About 6 years ago?" "I don't know when," I said. "What kind of animal was this?" Munn looked disgusted. "Guinea pig. They kept them as pets." I dropped it on the sidewalk. Munn kicked it into the gutter. "What's with all the broken lamps and stuff?" I said. "Mr. Fix-It," Munn said. Pete Delarosa was his name. He died about a year after we moved in. He liked fixing stuff, except he never did. He used to go around asking for items to repair, but people stopped giving him things when they realized they were never going to get them back. So he was nuts. Batshit. He and his wife died within a few months of each other. Someone bought the place after that. I don't know who. He never lived there, I know that. Let the house go empty when he could have rented it out. He must have been rich, like you. I'm not rich. I sat down on the bottom step of his stoop. The sun was right in my eyes. If I were rich, I would have hired someone to clean out the house for me, instead of picking up dead guinea pigs myself. You got a point, Munn said. You never told me what you do for a living. I'm a translator. That was what I always told people who asked what I did for a living, because it was the kind of job that allowed a person to both set their own hours and work from home. Dutch was the language I chose to say I translated, because I'd never met anyone who spoke it. Dutch? Where'd you learn that? Munn said. College. If he had asked what college, I would have told him Johns Hopkins. I did go to Johns Hopkins for most of my freshman year, so it wouldn't have been a total lie. But he didn't ask. I pulled on the sweaty neck of my t-shirt and watched a couple of cars whoosh past. Some kids started shouting at each other down the street, and I heard the beeping of a truck backing up. I began to get the gelatinous feeling that always came on when I forgot to take my meds. I rarely missed taking them, and never on purpose, but I didn't feel like getting up and going inside right that minute. There was a lot to be said for sitting on a stoop. I understood now why people did it. There was an easy silence between me and Munn that I liked and wanted to continue. I wondered how old he was and decided on 30. Though I knew he was on disability for a hurt foot, I hadn't noticed him limping. Okie doke, he finally said. Time to get us a beer.